From the land of 10,000 lakes and just as many heartaches, welcome to the 301 Show. We're here to celebrate, commiserate, and maybe, just maybe, see a Minnesota team win it all. Whether you're dreaming of a Vikings Super Bowl, reliving the glory days of the Twins, or still recovering from the Timberwolves roller coaster, we've got you covered. This is the 301 Show, where the North remembers and the passion never fades.
Yes, welcome into episode 34 of the 301 Show. We got a great show on tap for you here today. The Twins continue to suck, as well as the Lynx on the other end of it continue to push forward towards the playoffs. The Wild have made a signing in this offseason, and the Vikings get prepared for week one, as well as they make some other roster moves as well. All of that and more here on the 301 Show, episode 34. All right, moving on to our first segment, which is the Wolves Den. Let's start with the Lynx, because I've got some other graphics here to show for the Timberwolves. But let's start with the Lynx. They are 30-7. They lose their first back-to-back games, first time losing back-to-back games this season, as they lose to the New York Liberty in New York by 10, 85-75. And then the Atlanta Dream 75-73 in Atlanta. Both of those games were away. So again, they bounce back with two wins against the Indiana Fever. They had a home and home against the Fever, which they won 95-90, and then in Indiana, and then at home here at Target Center, they went 97-84. So again, they are first time losing back-to-back games all year. Again, the only glaring thing from their statistics, still the number one team in the WNBA. The only glaring thing from their statistics is still the turnover differential, which they are minus 2.1. And again, they have that, and they're still the number one team in the WNBA. That is absolutely fantastic to see, that they are so good everywhere else that they can overcome that thing. So they do take on the Seattle Storm on Thursday, the 28th, and they are in Connecticut against the Sun on Saturday, August 30th, at 6 p.m. Central Time. So they are also the first team to clinch a playoff spot in the WNBA. They are officially into the playoffs. Again, it would be mathematically possible for them to not get it before that, but it was very improbable. It was basically the reverse of what the Twins are right now. Is, again, mathematically possible for them to make the playoffs, but highly improbable. But right now, it's impossible mathematically for them to not make the playoffs, the Lynx. So they will be going to the playoffs. Again, we kind of saw that all year, knew that was going to happen all year without a major collapse. So on the Timberwolves side, their schedule got released. The 25-26 schedule is now out. There are a couple of games I want to go over, and then a quick statistic here from Charlie Walton, who brought this up. So the games I want to go over here are the season opener. They open the season at Portland against the Trailblazers at 9 p.m. on Wednesday, October 22nd. So that is their first game of the regular season. They've got some preseason games before that, but the first game of the regular season, Wednesday, October 22nd at 9 p.m. Central Time in Portland. Then right after that, they play the Lakers, a rematch of the first rematch of the first round. They play in LA against the Lakers at 9 p.m. on Friday, October 22nd. Then their home opener is 2 days after that, on Sunday, October 26th at 6 p.m. against the Indiana Pacers. So 3 games from the 22nd to the 26th every other day, and that includes the season opener, the first round rematch against the Lakers, and the home opener against the Pacers. Then they go, and I forget if we've talked about this before, but they do play on Christmas. So they do have a Christmas Day game this year. Again, they played the Dallas Mavericks last year on Christmas, and they've got another one, which good news because the Vikings also have a Christmas Day game that is at 3 p.m., 3:30, I think, p.m. Central Time. And then the Wolves play at 9:30 in Denver on the 25th. So you can still watch both of those games. They do not interfere with the other one. And that goes to then they do play in Atlanta on New Year's Eve at 2 p.m. That is Wednesday, December 31st. They play in Atlanta. And then their final game of the year is against the New Orleans Pelicans at 7:30 on Sunday, April 12th. So that is kind of like the big games throughout the year. Obviously, there's more. I'm sure there'll be more that come up to in terms of importance of playoff seeding as we get later into the season. But as of right now, those are the kind of big games throughout the year. But if we go over here, I did make this graphic for this. This is, I want to give all the credit to Charlie Walton on this. They have 28 nationally televised games this year. And Charlie Walton on Twitter did a fantastic breakdown of the last couple seasons, and just the schedule in general. But we'll actually go over the stat he brought up about the schedule. It's they are 10th most in miles traveled this year. That is going to be partially because they play so many West Coast teams, and they are in the Western Conference, and their closest opponent that is in the same conference as them is Oklahoma City. And I think they said that that's like 700 miles away or something like that. Can't remember the exact number, but the closest team in their conference is 700 miles away. And I do think because of that, the Wolves are probably going to be the team that gets moved if we get expansion teams like Seattle and Vegas. So I think they will be the ones moved to the East because they will be close to Milwaukee and Chicago. But Charlie Walton looked back at the last 5 years at the nationally televised games and pulled these stats together for us to look at. So these are the Wolves nationally televised games over the last 5 years. So in 2021-22, they had one nationally televised game. That was on TNT. Also, this is excluding the NBA TV games because a lot of those games just pulled the local feed. So it would just be like watching it the local feed on a NBA TV subscription. So those don't count for these stats. In 2022-23, they had 10 games split between TNT and ESPN. They got that cut in half the next year in 23-24, back down to 5 games. Again, split between TNT and ESPN. And then it over tripled the next year, 24-25, after that series against the Nuggets, that insane series against the Nuggets that caused the amount of nationally televised games to go up to 18, split between TNT, ESPN, and ABC. And then this year, they added 10 more games to the Wolves' nationally televised schedule between ESPN, ABC, NBC, Peacock, and Prime. So those are the 28 games, again, by far the most games that they've played in the last 5 seasons. And if you do some math on this, they only played 34 nationally televised games in the 4 seasons previous to this combined. And this season they're playing 28. So the national media is finally giving the Wolves, the respect that I believe they deserve. I think a lot of that too is due to Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards becoming, a superstar, a great personality too, and he is again fantastic to have on this team in terms of fan interest and a national fan interest. So he is a big reason for them having 28 games this upcoming season. And again, according to Charlie Walton here, OKC, Golden State, the Lakers, and the Knicks are the only 4 teams with more nationally televised games than the Wolves have. Now, like that Lakers game, that first one, I believe is also on ESPN. So, like, we have games against those 4 teams that are nationally televised. So, they do have 28 games, and they are in 5th. I didn't see if they were, like, tied for 5th for most amount of games or anything, but they are in either a tie or sole possession of 5th place for most amount of games on national TV. But if we go over to predictions here, we had quite a few Lynx predictions come off the board, as I went 1 for 5 of the ones that came off the board this week. Said the Wolves would go above 500 in the next 4 games. They went exactly 500, so that one is incorrect. I said the Wolves' winning streak hits at least 8 games. They did not do that. It got ended at 6 games. I said the Lynx will win 38 plus games this year. Even if they win out 38 games is mathematically impossible. And the Lynx will win 30 games before they lose 7. So if the 2 wins had flipped with the 2 losses, both the winning streak prediction and the win 30 games before they lose 7 would be correct, because they were at 28-7 and then they got up to 30-7 where they sit right now. But I did say last week that the Lynx have 3 games against the Fever the rest of the season, and that they would win 2 of those 3 remaining games, and they have already won 2 of the 3 remaining games. It doesn't matter what they do in the final game. They could win it or lose it, but this prediction is correct. So that brings the total correct predictions up to 21 out of 70 total predictions predicted, for a 30% correct rate. So 3 new predictions going on the board. All 3 of them are, again, more Lynx predictions. So first one is that the Lynx will win the next 2 games. The Lynx will not lose back-to-back games the rest of the regular season. They only have, I believe it's I believe only 7 games left, maybe. So they will not lose back-to-back games the rest of the regular season. And the Lynx will score 90-plus points at least 1 time in the next 2 games. So 2 of these should be off the board before episode 35. All right, now on to Target Field talkers here. The Twins blew it, honestly. They are 59-71. They are in the AL Central. They are still in 4th place. They are 11th in the wild card. They are in the entire American League. They are in 14th place. The only team worse than them in the American League right now is the Chicago White Sox. And the Chicago White Sox are the only reason they are not in last in their own division. Every other American League team is better than them right now, based off of the records. And yeah, it's absolutely embarrassing. I just don't even want to go over the stats right now, but batting average is 24th, on base is 20th, slugging is 17th, on base plus slugging is tied for 20th, runs scored is 24th, home runs is actually 14th. That's probably their best stat at this point. I mean, in terms of hitting, it is their best stat. It's the highest ranked stat. In terms of walks, they are 24th in most walks at the plate. They are 15th in fewest strikeouts at the plate. And stolen bases, they are 24th. So I don't like this there's so many players on this team that and we can get into a broader discussion about this in a second, but there's so many players on this team that look so promising as prospects and just haven't made that step to the MLB. And I do think there are some questions there on why that actually is. So we will get into that in just a second here. But to finish off the rankings, 4.30 ERA, that is 22nd. WHIP is 1.29, that is tied for 16th. Strikeouts are 1,086, that is 15th. Walks is 4th, fewest at 357, that is their best stat overall in terms of rankings. Errors are tied for 9th. Fielding percentage is tied for 9th. So the fielding percentage and errors have gotten a little bit more under control, because if you remember at the beginning of the year, they were like 20th in both of those. They were making a lot of errors at the beginning of the year, but it has sort of mellowed out a little bit. If you look back at this past week, they got swept by the Athletics. Swept by the Athletics at home. They lose 6-3, 4-2, and 10, and 8-3 in those 3 games. In the 3 games in Chicago against the White Sox, they won game 1 9-7. I'm like, okay, they're gonna prove that they're not a horrible team. Royce Lewis hits his first grand slam of the season, second of the for the team of the season. Brooks Lee hit one a couple weeks ago, but then they lose 7-3 in game 2 and 8-0 on Sunday, yesterday, as I am recording this. But again, to go 1-5 against the Athletics and the White Sox, like this team again, the front office and management and all of them, like, they don't deserve any success from this team. Like, I feel bad for the players that are still here. Speaking of which, only 2 players that are on the current 26-man roster are still under contract for next year. There's Pablo Lopez and Byron Buxton. They've got to re-sign or go to arbitration or do whatever they need to do with all these players. Like all the 24 of the 26 of them on this active roster right now. And I fear that they're going to let Joe Ryan walk or trade him or something. I think he's arbitration is when guys are young enough and they don't have enough service time in the MLB, they the 2 parties can submit to a third if there is no deal agreed upon between the 2 parties. Each party, the team and the player, can go to a third-party arbitrator and submit what they think that they are worth, and then make a case as to what that number, like why that number is the way it is, and that third-party arbitrator will make that decision. I think a lot of teams hate having to do that, because it really drives division in between the player and the team, because the team has to go in front of the player and say X, Y, and Z is why he's not actually worth this amount of money. So, but I feel like the Twins might just trade him or not sign him to what he deserves to be paid with Joe Ryan. And if you look at all the young players, and it's Royce Lewis, it's Edward Julian, Matt Wallner, Trevor Larnach. It's like all these guys were very, very good prospects coming up through the minor league system. And why aren't they, the big question for me is, why aren't they panning out at the MLB level? And again, sometimes it's they just, some players don't pan out at the major league level. Like that's a thing. You can be, they call them quad A players, because triple A is the highest level of the minor leagues, and sometimes guys do really, really well there and just can't take that final step. So they're too good for AAA, but not good enough for the MLB. So they're a quad A player. And but you look back at it, and there's those 4 guys that I mentioned: Wallner, Larnach, Julian, Royce Lewis, and they aren't performing up to what their expectations, or in like Lewis's case, the standard he set right now. And if you think, oh, that's just 4 isolated ones, I mean, you could going back a decade with Miguel Sano when he got called up in 2015, he was mashing the ball. He did not pan out even close to where he was. Yes, he had the up season in where he hit 30 plus home runs in 2019, but everybody hit 30 plus home runs in 2019 with the juiced ball. But he didn't pan out the way he should have, with the expectations he had. I mean, you could argue Max Kepler didn't pan out the way he did. Jose Miranda, who's been awful in AAA this year, can't make it on the MLB roster and might get demoted to AA at this point, or flat out waived. And I have to start assuming now that it's not the player's fault, it's the coach's fault and minor league staff's fault for not developing them to succeed at the MLB level. And it's brutal, absolutely brutal to see that, because again, these guys have so much promise and they have so much talent that is there and has been shown in flashes, but they just can't put it all together and put it together consistently. And so I just don't know where this team goes from here, honestly. And do you clear out some of those front office guys like Derek Falvey and Rocco and some of the minor league coordinator guys, that development guys that are helping these guys in the young leagues? I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but there's just brutal development happening, and it's not like you're not going to win a championship if this continues to happen. So, one, because your players aren't going to be developing as well, and then new, better free agents or trades aren't going to want to come here. So, yeah, I don't know what the solution is at this point. But starting today, again, as I'm recording this, they play a 3-game series in Toronto against the Blue Jays, Monday to Wednesday, the 25th through the 27th. And then they've got a 3-game home series versus the San Diego Padres. Friday, they have an off day Thursday, and that series begins on Friday. That goes the 29th, 30th, and 31st. So, yeah, those are the 3 games coming up this week. Or, excuse me, 6 games coming up this week, 3 this weekend, 3 during the week. We'll move on to predictions. Had 4 come off the board here. Went 50% on them. I said Luke Keeschall and Byron Buxton in 2 separate predictions will hit at least 1 home run against the Athletics and or White Sox. Neither one of them hit home runs in the last 6 games. But I said that Royce Lewis will hit at least 1 home run against the Athletics and or White Sox. And he did. And it was a grand slam. I think he had a couple home runs against the White Sox, but it was a grand slam, which that grand slam made the prediction from earlier in the year that I said Royce hits a grand slam this year. That prediction also came true. So that brought my total correct up to 15 total correct. Total predicted out of 58, so that it is 26% correct for the Target Field Talkers. Moving on to the 3 going on the board, I think Royce is going to get hot. I think he hits multiple home runs in the next week. So in Toronto or home against the Padres, he will hit multiple home runs in those 2 series combined. If it's 1 home run in each series, that still counts as correct. The next Joe Ryan starts, he will pitch 7+ innings. Don't know exactly how well he'll do outside of that, but it'll be 7+ innings in his next start. And then in the same time frame as the Royce Lewis one, Byron Buxton will hit at least 1 home run. So Royce has got to hit 2+, Buxton has got to hit 1+. Moving on to Rinkside Rundown now. Again, for the second week in a row, the Frost really have no new news to actually talk about. They're continuing the kind of lull of the off season, but we do have some pretty big news with the Wild, Bill Guerin said a couple things on a press conference, and we'll save the more important thing for right now on the for just a second here. But the kind of less breaking news part of it is that there is not a Kirill extension update right now, but that Wild fans should not be concerned, and they are moving forward to. I guess he didn't. I should say. Let me rephrase. Bill Guerin said he didn't want to give any updates on this Zoom call with the media, but that means that there was no contract signed. Otherwise, that would have been news number one. But in my opinion, fans should not be concerned just yet that there's not a Kirill contract update. One, he is in Russia. Kirill is back home in Russia, and he is, this is probably something they'd want to do like a full in-person press conference for when they do announce it. So I am guessing that if a contract does get done, it is going to take place closer to actual training camp. I think fans should be concerned if there is not a contract signed before the first game. So that level of panic should raise a little bit if by the first preseason game, and I think it should go through the roof if it has not happened by the first regular season game. So just everyone take a deep breath for now. The training camp usually, I believe, starts in September. So we'll wait for that for when the Kirill contract updates should be taking place. But the big news from this past week out of St. Paul is that Marco Rossi has signed a contract with the Wild. It was a 3-year deal at $15 million, so it's a $5 million average annual value. And this is via Spotrac. This is the contract breakdown. So he, in this year, is his age 24 season. The cap hit is exactly $5 million. The cash is a little bit different. So this season he will be getting $4 million in cash this year. He will be getting $5 million in cash next year, which is that same cap hit, which is the 26-27 season. That is his age 25 season. So the cap hit and the cash he gets are the same next year. And then the year after that, he gets $6 million in cash. That is the 27-28 season, or his age 26 season. And the cap hit will be $5 million. And the unless they do some rearranging on that contract, but he will be getting $6 million in cash, and the cap hit will only be $5 million. Now, I added this cap hit percentage because that's a massive thing with sports teams, is how much of the salary cap, what percentage are they taking up. So this year, the $5 million is 5.24% of the entire salary cap. And so they have a lot more wiggle room on that aspect of it. And the next 2 years I have listed here are based off of cap projections of where the cap is going. They don't set in stone what the salary cap is until just before the start of the new league year. So these are just projections right now, but it's based off of the last couple years where the projections or how much it has raised over the last couple years. It's projected to be a 4.81% next season in 26-27 and 4.41 in 27-28. So it is $5 million all 3 years, but it actually takes up, again, projected, and assuming the NHL continues to make as much money as they have been, Rossi will be taking a lesser percentage of the salary cap as we go on here. So I do think that this is great for both Rossi and the Wild because Rossi, it is a bridge deal. The Wild do get him on the team for the next 3 years, unless they decide to trade him. Which again, I don't think a trade is completely off the table at this point with Rossi. I do think they signed him knowing that he could be traded, and there is still the possibility of that. And I mean, he was almost traded this offseason, and there was rumors about him going to Vancouver. So I don't think that is off the table at this point. But yeah. All right, sorry about that. I got a phone call that I had to take while recording that. But yeah, Rossi. I again, I want to say that I believe Bill Guerin is still open to trading Marco Rossi. But they now have a 3-year window to do that instead of trying to force it this off season, and they now can, like, that's why this 3-year deal benefits the Wild is he's either on the team for 3 years, which I do think Marco Rossi is a very good player, or they now have a 3-year window to trade him for more than what he would have been in just trying to get him out this summer. So I do think that's where the good part comes in for the Wild. But on Rossi's side, I think that he only a 3-year deal is great for him too, because he can go out and try in the next 3 years try to up his value and try to get more than $5 million per year after the 3-year contract is up. So I do think that this is, again, fantastic. Like, it's not too long for Rossi, and it's not too long for the Wild. And if it doesn't pan out for either one of those two, like, it's the Wild can get out from under that contract very soon after 3 years. So again, I do think it's great that he signed a 3-year deal for both parties at this point. On to the predictions. I had two come off the board here. Both of them have to deal with the Rossi contract extension. We'll start with the bad one first, even though it's listed on the bottom here on the screen if you're listening or watching this. I said that Kirill will sign an extension before Marco Rossi signs with the Wild. Marco Rossi signed first. So that was incorrect. Then the one I did get correct is that Marco Rossi will re-sign with the Wild by the first preseason game, and he did. So he will be a member of the Wild, and that prediction was correct. If we move over to the three coming on the board here, said that Kirill signs first prediction is that Kirill signs a contract extension that is exactly 5 years by $14.5 million. If it's 14.55, that is incorrect. It's got to be 14,500,000 and then a 5 and then 5 zeros after that. So that is my first prediction. Second prediction is that Jesper Wallstedt will record a shutout in the 25-26 regular season. And third and final prediction for this episode is that Nicole Hensley records 2+ shutouts in the 25-26 regular season. Moving on to our fourth and final team segment here of episode 34, the Nordic Report. Let's go over the game against the Tennessee Titans, the only away preseason game the Vikings had. A couple of things happened in this game. First is that Max Brosmer went 15 of 23 for 161 yards. He had 1 touchdown and 0 interceptions. So again, another just fantastic game. I think cemented him as the QB3 on this team. With the possibility, I think there's a very good possibility that Max Brosmer could get up to the QB2 by, maybe, week 10, 11, 12, towards the end, mid to end of this season, or the beginning of next season. He could be the QB2 behind J.J. McCarthy. And, so Dante Fleming did have a drop pass that would have added to those stats. I can't remember exactly how far it was, but would have put him very close, if not over 200 passing yards in that game, and then 16 of 23 instead of 15 of 23. And I believe that if that was Jefferson, Hawkinson, or Addison, they would have caught that ball. So I do think Max Brosmer played absolutely spectacularly in that game in the Nashville. So the Vikings did lose 23-13. Another thing that happened was Will Reichard did miss a kick, and the holder, who I'm forgetting right now, the name of right now, but I can go back really quick as I stall here, as I saw Oscar Chapman did have a poor hold on that ball. It was wasn't a perfect hold for Will Reichard, but he still missed the kick in that game. So in more recent news, I guess not more recent news is for this first one, but the Vikings completed a trade before and after the final preseason game. First one is they traded with the Jets. The Jets receive Harrison Phillips, a 2020 and a 2027 seventh round pick, in exchange for a 2026 sixth and a 2027 sixth round pick. The Vikings also retain almost $5.5 million in 2025 and a little over 1.5 in 2026. So those two, that helps the Jets out a little bit and gets the Vikings 2 6th-round picks instead of just one, and gets this trade done in the first place. So that to me is signaling that they are looking for a wide receiver. I think that was to clear up cap space for a possible veteran receiver, which we'll get to some rumors about the receiving room in just a moment here. But to me, that signals that there's more moves to be made before week 1 of the regular season, which again, final preseason game was this past Friday. They do not play this upcoming weekend. They call it the preseason bye week, and then week 1 is Monday night the week after that. So they've got some time here in between games. So after the preseason game against the Titans, the Vikings traded on their current depth chart QB2 Sam Howell to the Eagles and a 2026 6th-round pick to the Eagles for a 2026 5th-round pick and a 2027 7th-round pick. Absolutely love this trade. The fact that they got anything for Sam Howell at this point is amazing. And at this point, too, you move back 3 spots and you pick up an extra, or 30 spots in the draft, and you pick up an extra pick on top of that, too. It's fantastic. I absolutely love that. And you took a chance on a guy that could have been your QB2 this year behind J.J. McCarthy. It didn't work out, and I didn't think it was going to work out at this point. Watching him in training camp and the preseason, I didn't think that was going to work out. So absolutely love this trade. But they also cut Brett Rippon. So if you're doing the math on that, that means it is J.J. McCarthy and Max Brosmer on the roster right now. Now, Max Brosmer could turn into a good, solid quarterback, but that's probably not this year. He isn't going to be there just yet, but the Vikings still need a backup quarterback. So they went out and signed Carson Wentz. He won the Super Bowl in Minnesota. Obviously, he wasn't playing because that was Nick Foles that was playing, but he was a massive part that Eagles team was where they were. But he signed a deal with the Vikings to be their backup this in 2025. And if you look at games that he has started since leaving the Eagles, he's been, I think they said this is his 6th team in 6 years, so he has been a journeyman quarterback since leaving the Eagles. And his when he in games he starts, his offense is scoring on average 22 points per game, and the Vikings defense last year let up only 19, a little over 18 points per game. So that math works out. If JJ goes down or is playing poorly, you know, that math still works out to me. That the Vikings get their QB2, should be the QB2 week 1, Max Brosmer being the QB3, and then they go from there. And yeah, I do love this Carson Wentz signing to be their backup quarterback right now, because again, you're not asking him to be the Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. You're asking him to be the backup who hopefully won't get in for many snaps, if any snaps at all, this season. And I mean, hopefully the only time he gets in is if the Vikings are up by a bunch of points at the end of a game, and they don't want McCarthy to get hurt in like late fourth quarter, and then Carson Wentz comes in and plays like that. So hopefully those are the only times that Wentz has to come in, because that means that the Vikings are actually playing well and they don't need a backup, and McCarthy's not getting hurt. So as for the wide receiver room that I mentioned, this is according to ESPN. The Vikings reached out to the Carolina Panthers to inquire about Detroit Lakes native Adam Thielen in a reunion with the wide receiver. Now, he is 35 years old, and again, I wouldn't mind bringing back Adam Thielen as long as the price point is right. I would just need to see what that price point of a trade is. I'm not giving up anything more than a day 3 pick for Adam Thielen. I could be, now what I think would be the perfect trade is if you say it's a conditional 6th round pick, and that condition on the 6th round pick is that it turns into a 5th round pick if Thielen plays X amount of snaps or scores X amount of touchdowns or something, or has X amount of catches, because then you know that he is actually producing then, and it would actually be worth giving up a 5th round pick if he is having that type of production on your team as the wide receiver 3 when everyone is healthy and not suspended. But Justin Jefferson has been dealing with a hamstring issue this training camp, and he should be back. The reports are should be back for week 1. Jordan Addison, those reports were out last week, a couple weeks ago. He will be suspended for the first 3 weeks of the season. And then Naylor is still hurt with a hand issue, so you just don't really have a wide receiver 2. I know you have a target number 2, which is TJ Hawkinson, so that is fantastic, but you don't have a wide receiver 2 at this point. So to get an Adam Thielen who knows the playbook, he spent a year in the KOC system, and to get that type of receiver would be fantastic for this offense to step in and have that type of knowledge, and you're not going to ask him to be the Adam Thielen when it was Thielen and Diggs. You're asking him to be the wide receiver 3, and for the first 3 weeks be the wide receiver 2, but be the wide receiver 3 for weeks 4 and on. And I think Adam Thielen at 35 years old could handle that. I think he still has that ability to be the wide receiver 3 or /4 if Naylor comes up and does well. So I would love Thielen on this team as long as the price point is right. So that to me is the biggest thing, is what would the Panthers be asking for, and would the Panthers be even willing to give him up at this point, which I think they should be, because they've got a bunch of young receivers that they need to get the ball to. And I would rather give those if I'm the Panthers, I would rather give those younger guys targets and the chance to score. So, but yeah, possible reunion with Adam Thielen coming here in the next week or 2. So look out for that. On to predictions. This was the worst segment of the week. Had 3 predictions come off the board. All 3 of them were incorrect. I said the Vikings will beat the Titans. They did not. The Vikings will score 20-plus points in Tennessee. They did not. They only scored 13. And then Will Reichard will make all of his kicks versus the Titans. He did not on the botched hold by Oscar Chapman. If we move to the 3 predictions coming on the board here, I said the Vikings will win double-digit games in the 2025 regular season. So 10 or more games in 2025 in the regular season. So if they win 9 games and they win a playoff game, this would not count. Max Brosmer will be listed as QB2 for at least 1 game this year. I think I'm going to go out on a limb here and just say that he ends up performing really well and ends up getting promoted this season to QB2. And then the Vikings will win the season opener in Chicago on Monday Night Football in Week 1. All right, now on to the power rankings for the final segment of today's show. In this one, we've got the top 10 single season performances by a player. So this is season. We've done single game performances by a player, and this is the single game performances, single season performances by a player. So coming in here at number 10 is Brett Favre in 2009. Took the Vikings to the NFC Championship game. Ended up losing to the Saints. But he also had 4,200 passing yards, 33 passing touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He had a 107.2 passer rating, a 74.4 QBR. He was a Pro Bowler. He was 4th in MVP and 4th in Comeback Player of the Year. So Brett Favre comes in at number 10. At number 9, it is Justin Morneau in 2006. Morneau played 157 of the 162 games. His slash line was a 321 batting average, a 375 on base, and a 559 slugging percentage. He also had 34 doubles and 34 home runs, while scoring 97 runs and batting in 130 RBIs. He was an MVP that year, and he won the Silver Slugger. So fantastic year from Justin Morneau, too. At number 8, sticking to the diamond, but taking it way back in the day, Harmon Killebrew's 1969 season comes in at number 8. Harmon Killebrew in 1969 played all 162 games. He hit 276, had a 427 on-base percentage, and a 584 slugging. He had 20 doubles, 49 home runs, which is the Twins/Senators franchise single-season record. He has 106 runs scored, 140 RBIs, 145 walks, was an all-star, and the league MVP. Sticking with the diamond at number 7 here, we go on to the pitching side. We go to the rubber with Johan Santana in 2004. In that 2004 season, he went 20-6 with a 2.61 ERA, a 0.92 WHIP, and 265 strikeouts that season. He won the Cy Young Award for Best Pitcher in the American League, and he was 6th in MVP voting. So absolutely fantastic year there from Johan Santana. The best pitching season in Twins history. At number 6, again, we're sticking in 2004, but we're going to the gridiron. That is Dante Culpepper. He had a 69.2% completion percentage, 4717 passer yards, 4,700 passer yards. He had 39 passing touchdowns and to 11 interceptions. He had 110.9 passer rating. He got sacked 46 times, and he was a Pro Bowler. He was 2nd in Offensive Player of the Year voting too. So Dante Culpepper, that's not right on the sacks. Ignore the sack number there. But Dante Culpepper comes in at number 6 in the top 10 single season performances on this list. As we go to, so the 10 to 6 there is Brett Favre 2009, Justin Morneau 2006, Harmon Killebrew 1969, Johan Santana 2004, and Dante Culpepper 2004. As we move on here to number 5, going back to the diamond, back in the 1900s, 1977, Rod Carew comes in at number 5. Rod Carew, 155 games that year, 388 batting average, 449 slugging, 449 on base, 570 slugging. He had 38 doubles, 16 triples, 14 home runs. He had 239 hits that season. He scored 128 runs, drove in 100. He was an all-star and won the MVP that year. So 1977, Rod Carew comes in at number 5. At number 4, the first and I believe only defensive player to win MVP in the NFL, 1971, Alan Page. Again, big reason why I had the 71 Vikings as one of the teams that should have won the Super Bowl. Should have won. That team should have won the Super Bowl, but didn't. He played in 14 games, 3 fumbles. He had 2 safeties, 9 sacks. He was a Pro Bowler. He was the All-Pro team All-Pro team, All-Pro first team, and the Defensive Player of the Year as well as the MVP. And again, defensive players, teams, positions other than quarterback don't win the MVP anymore. Adrian Peterson was the last one to do that in 2012, and that much less a defensive player. So number 4 is Alan Page. Speaking of Adrian Peterson's 2012 season, he comes in at number 3 here. Again, the last non-quarterback to win the MVP award. It comes in at number 12. He played 16 games, 2,097 rushing yards, 12 rushing touchdowns. He had 217 receiving yards as a running back, one receiving touchdown. He was a Pro Bowler. He was All-Pro first team. He was MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, and he was second in Comeback Player of the Year. So absolutely fantastic year by Adrian Peterson. Number 2, we're going back to the Diamond, hometown kid, 2009, Joe Mauer. He won the MVP that year. He won the batting title that year. He played 138 games. It was a 365 batting average, 444 on base, 587 slugging percentage. He had 30 doubles, 28 home runs, 94 runs scored, 96 RBIs. He was an all-star MVP, had a silver slugger, and won the Gold Glove. So fantastic in the field and at the plate. So have to give that to Joe Mauer at number 2 on this list. At number 1, first time we're going to the court, that would be Kevin Garnett's 2003-04 season. He averaged 39.4 minutes a night. Basketball games are 48 minutes, so it was only on average would only sit for 8 minutes per game. He had 24.2 points per game. He had 5 assists per game, 1.5 steal per game, 2.2 blocks, had a 49.9% field goal percentage, and won the MVP that year. So he was shooting basically 50% while putting up fantastic numbers everywhere else. And that team also had some players get votes that I don't think would have gotten votes if not for KG. He was 6th in Defensive Player of the Year that year to All Defensive First Team, All NBA team, All NBA First Team to Sam Cassell got 10th place in the MVP voting, and Fred Hoiberg got 6th Man of the Year, or 15th and 6th Man of the Year that season. And again, I don't think those two guys would have come close to those positions without Kevin Garnett. Thanks for watching this episode of the 301 Show, episode 34. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Really helps me out a lot. Comment down below where you agree or disagree with me. Comment any other power rankings topics you want me to go over. I'm more than willing to do those segments. So please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time for episode 35. Peace.